Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Laura and I are super excited for who we have as our agent use specialist. We have Stephen Graff over here. I'm gonna let Laura take it away because she works closely with him. Fun fact, he has a lavender farm.
Yep, I'm still waiting for some lavender soap to head our way. It's gonna happen eventually. Yes, Stephen and I work pretty closely. I feel like I email him almost every morning for him to be greeted as he comes into the office. Stephen is a branding and swag guru. He is our go-to person if you have any kind of promotional merch needs for events, networking, really anything. He is amazing to work with. We've worked with other people, other larger corporations in the past, and they're slow, they're not helpful, they're really strict, and they have so many issues. We've had issues where things fall through the cracks, and Stephen has been like our saving grace here. Like, he's amazing to work with. He always helps get everything going, even if it's last minute need, even though we try not to do that to him. He's been in the business quite a long time, and we are so thankful to have him on our Agent U call here today so that he can give you some amazing tips for any of your upcoming swag needs. He knows what's best, what types of things that to suggest for different events. So we're excited to hear more about that. So Stephen, if you wanted to add anything to that, go ahead.
I'm afraid of the bar you've set. Maybe a little higher than I end up delivering.
Just limbo under it then.
Yeah, let's say I may have to drop down a little. Okay, so I'm Steve Graff. I own Green Monkey Promotions. I also own gmgifting.com, which is an automated gifting service that we built a little over a year ago, got it launched, and it's doing real well. I've been in the swag business, as it were, since 1998. There may be people on this Zoom that weren't even alive in 98. I'm an old dude. I do it because I love it. It's fun. It's different every single day. I get to work with amazing people like Laura on an almost daily basis with either her or someone from that group. I spent some time in the military before that, did some overseas work, did some stuff that doesn't translate very well to civilian jobs, and had to find myself when I got out of the service. Stumbled into this, and it's been growing ever since. Sold my first business in 2011, reopened. Green Monkey was born, and Bob's your uncle. I do have, and I'll throw the first T-box disclaimer on this, I'm horrible at PowerPoint. But I have one, so we all get to follow along as I show you all, I don't know, 7 slides in my PowerPoint. I wanted to start with a quick statistic. A recent study, and this is like 2 years ago, and it was a group of business analysts from Harvard, did this big study, and they interviewed over 10,000 different people. And the number that came up was that 89% of promotional product recipients remember the business that gave them that item a year and even more after they received it. If you're spending any money on marketing, getting that impression, getting that impact that lasts is always a challenge. And I know we're talking about stuff that's imported from who knows where across the globe, little tchotchkes and plastic stuff, but the impressions you get and the impact you get are second to none in the advertising market. The second neat little stat they got out of that is that the average wall calendar, let me say this, is there any more boring promotional item than a wall calendar? The average wall calendar is viewed over 4,000 times a year. So where else are you going to get 4,000 impressions of your name and business logo in a year for $3.79? It just adds credence to the strength of the promotional stuff that you can use across this industry. Now, I titled this program Smart Swagging Because yes, you get a lot of impressions, and yes, there's a lot of really normal, boring stuff out there in the promotional world. There's calendars and pens and koozies and mugs and all the garbage. Anything you can put your logo on is out there. But there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And so I put together 6 tips that we're going to discuss that will give you some guidance the next time you go to buy promotional items to market your own business or your own agency with. And this applies across any industry. So if you're on this and you're a realtor, or if you're a loan officer or a broker or somebody changing oil for a living or a landscape guy, these rules will apply across the spectrum. And I tried to keep them really, really simple. So let's get started with the first one. So tip number 1 is have a specific goal when you do your promotional products. We all know who Stephen Covey is, 7 Habits fame, and he's credited with saying, begin with the end in mind. So know what you're trying to accomplish. One of the greatest assets to promotional merchandise is that it's the most versatile marketing item for accomplishing a number of different goals. For it to work, though, and for it to work right, you really need to know what those goals are. So are you trying to drive traffic to a website? Are you wanting to reward employees or good clients? Are you wanting to say thank you? Here's one of my favorites. If you're setting up at a trade show, but before the show, you want to do something that will drive traffic to your booth. If you've ever worked a trade show or a home and garden show or a Chamber of Commerce event with all the booths set around the convention center, you know, standing there as hundreds of people walk by and don't stop is the most miserable feeling in the world. And it makes your feet hurt even worse before the day's over. So whatever your goal is, you need to know what it is before you even start shopping for the promotional products. So let me give you an example. We had a client, and I bring up the trade show example. We had a client several years ago who had done the same Chamber of Commerce business showcase year after year after year. And he'd gotten mixed results out of it, always had a nice booth. He was really good about setting his display up in a very professional manner, but he really wanted to drive traffic hard to his booth. So he calls, we start going through some planning, and we came up with a casino theme for his booth. Now, he's still just in a 10 by 10. There's just a couple of them working the booth. So we come up with this casino theme. So one of his guys was set up on a green table dealing blackjack. And he had his PA, his assistant, on the other one with a little cheap plastic roulette wheel. What we did from our end was we sold him 500 poker chips with his logo and phone number on them, really cool little poker chips. But we went a step further. We mailed a poker chip to 500 people from the Chamber of Commerce's mailing list with an invitation to spend that chip playing a game at the showcase for winning prizes. Now, he put pictures in this invitation of a big Yeti cooler and some stainless steel tumblers and some miscellaneous tchotchkes that we had provided for him. But we sent this out saying, make sure you bring your poker chip in, play the games, win the prizes. Well, the results on it were almost more than they could handle. They ended up getting 282 of those poker chips back in one day of this showcase, gave out all their prizes, and for the next month after the show, set sales records from his organization. He had a goal. We had written this goal down and then built the plan around it. And then we bought the promotional items that were thematic, that were appropriate, and that worked for what he was trying to accomplish. So looking back at tip number 1, always have a goal for your promotional items when you go to buy them. Don't just go buy a ballpoint pen because you think everybody has them and you got to have one like a business card. That's not the case. Have your goal, have it written down, work from there when you first get started. So let's move on to number 2. Never sacrifice quality. Even for quantity, even if it's just to be sitting out on the table for people to grab. So at this point, we all know we're going to set the goal. Now we got to pick the product. The problem we get with products is people focus so hard on the price of the items and the budget of their event that they're willing to buy 1,000 of a much cheaper item instead of 300 or 400 of the nicer item just because they think they're getting more. Well, here's where the problem comes in, and this has happened to me on the receiving end of it. I got a pen from a home and garden show one time. I just happened to be walking through and didn't have a pen on me. There's a table. I grabbed one. I put it in my pocket. It was within 2 hours that I had this huge black ink stain on my pocket. Well, I know exactly who caused that ink stain because their name and phone number are written all over the pen because they paid 12 cents a piece for some cheap garbage that didn't work. Don't sacrifice quantity or don't sacrifice quality for quantity. Make sure that, and this is a good way to think of it, when you look at a promotional item, ask yourself, will it end up in my kitchen junk drawer? All of you have one, don't deny it. We know the truth. If you think it would end up in your kitchen junk drawer, or even worse, in the trash, then it's not even worth looking at. And a good test for that is when you get home, go in your kitchen, open that drawer, and pull everything out that's got someone's logo or phone number printed on it. There's going to be a bunch. Some of you will have 3 or 4, some of you will have 30 or 40. What I want you to do is look at that pile of items, multiply it by 500 or 1,000, and then try to calculate how much money was spent on that stuff that went straight into the trash or a kitchen junk drawer. And ask yourself, do I want my promotional items to go there? The idea is to do stuff that's nice enough people will keep and use, but not so overpriced that you can only get a couple of them, like 2 or 3, and save them for your key clients. There's a place for that, but in the grand scheme of things, you're going to need a quantity of promotional items. Just make certain that you get the right stuff. Now, there's a cautionary tale in here also. There are some online sources for buying promotional products. Fine, you might be able to save a little money. The problem is every one of those items in their online catalog were photographed by a professional photographer whose job is to make it look like a Mercedes-Benz, when in reality it could be a Yugo. So be very careful when you're doing that. Those of us that have been around the industry for 20 plus years can look at an item, look at who the supplier is, and know right off the bat that, well, that supplier sells rubber dog poop from China that falls apart as soon as it gets here, or whatever. And we know from experience which ones are the ones you should go with and which ones you shouldn't. Doing it online is kind of a gamble. It's one of those industries where they can show you pretty pictures, but you may not get exactly what you think you're getting. If you do have a problem, then who do you call and how quickly can it be resolved? So just be very, very careful when you're talking about the quality of your item and where you're going to get those items. Okay, I feel like I'm going a little fast. I get a little rambly, but I'm going to keep going. Let's move on to tip number 3. And this is pretty important. Know who your audience is. Who are the recipients of this particular promotional item going to be? And I'm going to give you a little story here that I always shake my head at. Back in 2019, Chase Bank launched this huge Twitter campaign. It was called #MondayMotivation. One of their first Monday tweets featured a picture of Paris Hilton sporting a white tank top that said in big bold letters, "Stop being poor." Now, their intent was to promote better financial habits. What they didn't realize was the demographic of the normal Twitter user did not fit who that was aimed at, and most of them were over the top offended. They slammed them as poor shaming. Chase Bank face plants with some of the big posts, and it really did damage to their image for a long time. And they had to pull the ad, backpedal, and do a lot of back end work to try to get an image back, but the damage had already been done. It was obviously going into that they didn't know who the audience was on Twitter. They weren't up to speed on the demographics of the normal Twitter user, and hitting somebody with a Paris Hilton "Stop being poor" was pretty tasteless in the end. So knowing your audience is a big key. And some of the questions you need to ask, I'll go back to the trade show over and over because that's a big part of what we do. Are you going to be at a trade show? Have you done this trade show before? And do you know the type of traffic you're going to get through the door? Give you an example of that. I do the business showcase every year with our local chamber. It usually runs 2 days. It starts a day and a half. So it starts Friday after lunch. They have a big luncheon, give away some awards, and then the show starts, runs until about 6 that first day. And then all day Saturday is when the big crowds come. But I can tell you on Friday afternoon, buses and vans pull up out front from the Senior Citizens Center in our town. And every one of those wonderful people come through with a tote bag, grabbing every free piece of swag they could buy, thinking their grandbabies are just going to love it. So if you've got a nice promotional item that you're going to give away for prospects and people that you're trying to entice into your booth to discuss business, don't put them out there on day one at a show like that. Know who the audience is. Throw out some cheap swag if you want for those type of crowds that come through. So trade shows are one thing. Are you mailing these items out? And if you are, what size, shape, weight is that item? If you want to ship a poker chip, it's a whole lot cheaper than shipping a Yeti tumbler. So know where they're going and how they're being distributed. Now, are these things that are going to be in your salespeople's vehicles? And as they meet with clients, they can pull it out of the trunk and hand it to it. That can dictate size and shape and quality of the item. Are they specifically for closed business? Are these promos going to be for new prospects that you're trying to bring in? All of those things need to be hashed out in the beginning. After you've set your goal or determined what you're trying to accomplish, start examining who your target audience is with these promotional items. Now, genuinely, if it's something that's going to be sitting on the table for 4 days at a big home and garden show, and you could care less who picks it up as long as it's got your name and number, that's fine too. Do something at least functional that's useful that won't get thrown away. And we'll go into some examples of that coming up here shortly. So examine the recipients, know your audience. Tip 3 is know who your target market is and who's going to actually receive these promotional items. All right, here comes tip number 4, and this is one of my favorites of all time because I do this on a daily basis with every client I've ever had. Good, better, best. So if you've ever been online, started shopping promotional products, you know that, and this is a real number, there are well over 1 million unique promotional items in the industry as we speak today. Surfing through all of that stuff is beyond overwhelming. So what I do is I start with a good, better, best mentality when I'm looking for items. I know my theme, we've already set that. So let's say I'm doing a beach day. I'm going to make a list of some of the most perfect promotional items I can think of and just keep going as I'm scrolling. Things like beach balls, sunscreen, visors, cool wrap bandanas, maybe a beach towel on the higher end. If it were the middle of winter, we might look at, well, in Texas, we don't look at ice scrapers, but some of you people may look at ice scrapers. You might look at mittens. You might look at scarves. We do some scarves on the Vic Finn site. How about a hot cocoa set? Those kind of things in the winter. At this point of the process, when you're making your list, don't pay any attention to price. Just completely ignore costs. We'll get to that in a minute. We're really just trying to narrow the focus of what we're shopping for to avoid clicking through a million different items on some website somewhere. So once we've got our list, let's say we end up with 15 or 20 items on there. Now let's break them down into good, better, best. These are okay. These I really like. These are top notch. Make your 3 columns of good, better, best and start sorting through those. Now we can put prices on them. You can specifically search, find, or ask your guru expert for the pricing on that kind of stuff, and you can figure out the few items that you're going to use. I did a quote this morning for a regular client of mine, and he called and he said, look, I don't know exactly what I want. He was wanting some nice button-up shirts. I don't know what range to look. Can you just send me some options? When I'm asked to send options on a specific item, I always send 3 items. I show them a good, a better, and a best. And they're priced that way. The good is the entry level. The better is in the middle range. On this particular one, the best was a $120 button-down shirt. So it was pretty top end, pretty high end, pretty nice stuff. I always work good, better, best. It helps me narrow the focus and avoids wasting a ton of time surfing through websites, looking at just random promotional items that really don't apply. So keep the good, better, best thing on your list of things to do when you're working on promotional items. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 5. this one I like a whole lot also. It's functional relevance. This is going to play back on some of the things we've already talked about a little bit. So I understand that when you're looking at the entire world of promotional products, the top categories in order of sales are wearables, writing instruments, bags like tote bags or plastic bags, and especially lately drinkware. Those are the top 1, 2, 3, 4 categories in the promotional. And while those are great and they're fun to play in and they're very effective, sometimes you need to drill a little bit deeper into your product selection for specific events or to enhance a specific message that you're trying to deliver in your marketing campaign. So we're going to talk about functional relevance. First off, let's talk about functional. When you're looking at promo items, make sure that they have a use. Make sure they're functional in some way, shape, or form. Ballpoint pen, wherever my pen is. These are functional. I use them every day. We all do. You got to have a pen. Now, the question there is, do you do a cheap pen that nobody's going to use, or do you try to step up a little bit and do a pen that writes well, lasts a long time, and won't fill your pocket full of ink? Stay functional, but stay quality on those type of things. Some of the nicer, more useful functional items we've done recently, of course, the stainless tumblers will never go out of style. Nice pizza cutters are always good. I have a pizza cutter in my house that a friend of mine gave me from his business, and this is 15 years ago. And I still have it in my drawer in the kitchen, and we cut pizzas with it all the time. And I look at it and think of Chris Shirley every time I pull that pizza cutter out. Branded pot holders are really effective. High-end drink coasters. And when I say high-end, the cork ones are fine if you're doing meetings or things like that. But if you're going to leave it in someone's office, or if they're going to use it at their house, make sure it's a little bit nice, maybe some of the sandstone or even a leather coaster, something functional. I do a lot of digital tire gauges for some of the auto shops around East Texas where I am. I've recently done some for some realtors, some little keychains with a personal alarm on it. All they have to do is just pull the little plug out, and it's a piercingly high, loud, screaming siren that goes off. Now you plug it back in and it'll stop, thank goodness. But we did a bunch of those personal alarms. Are very, very functional, and nobody's going to throw it away. They're items that won't end up in that junk drawer or in the trash. So whatever you decide on, make sure it's functional. Let's go to part B of that, relevance. Relevance can be a bit more tricky, and it takes on a variety of different meanings. So are we going to be relevant to your business? Are we going to be relevant to the specific event? Where I live, we host, I think it's the second largest hot air balloon race in the country every year. So all of the promos we do for that event are all balloon related. So it's relevant to the event. Is it relevant to a specific message that you're delivering with a promotional campaign? Relevance requires some thought, but it can really add impact and drive home your message that you're working on. So make sure that first it's functional, second it's relevant. Put the two together, you've got functional relevance. See what I did there? And it works really well and makes for a much wiser spend of your marketing dollars. So that would be functional relevance. So, okay, here's my final tip number 6. And I think this will hit home with if we've got realtors in the group especially, find expert help. This is the client of mine who goes online and buys promos off some weird online source is the exact equivalent of the for sale by owner sign.
That's such a good comparison for this. Oh my God.
It's exactly that. And here's the other side to this. People who have been in this industry for a lot of years, like myself, we sell the same exact items that everybody else does. I do some custom importing, but for the most part, they're all the same items, but we're free. We don't cost you anything. There's no fee that I tack onto an invoice. There's no consulting charges for any of that. It's free. And with our experience and knowledge in the industry over, for me, 24 plus years, I know which vendors can be counted on. I know which vendors cannot be relied on. I also, and this comes in handy a lot, I know which vendors can turn an order around in 7 days instead of 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get your stuff in. So first off, the biggest obstacles you'll face doing it on your own is there's a million items out there, and who knows if they're any good, and how are you going to find them, and can you trust the source? The next is there's really no cost to finding an expert. I'll be straight up. I don't care if you call me or someone in your local market, but call somebody who's been doing promotional products for years, not necessarily months, but find somebody who's been doing it for a long, long time and get their help. It doesn't cost you a dime more. If they're good and if they're skilled at what they do, they'll make your process that much easier. And the other side of the coin is every minute you spend online searching for promotional products is a minute you're taking away from finding new clients for yourself in your industry that you're the expert in.
Good point.
Spend your time doing what you're good at. Find somebody else to do what they're good at and make those recommendations. Instead of spending an hour, you'll end up spending 10 minutes reviewing the options and discussing the campaign. And then it comes through in the end with much better results from any of the promotional marketing you're doing. So that was tip 6. Here, let's review them one more time here. Have a specific goal. Never sacrifice quality. Know your audience. Who's your target market? Good, better, best. Super easy to remember, easy to do. Good, better, best. Functional relevance. Pay attention to that. And then find expert help. That's the biggest one I've got. Now, this is me, Steve Graff. I am the head monkey at Green Monkey Promotions. There's my cell phone number, my email address, my website. You're welcome to surf around. You're welcome to email me, hit me whenever. Holler at me anytime. I'm always open for questions, comments, concerns. It makes me know, never mind. I just love talking to people. Best part about this business is the people. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
That was so much information. That's so helpful for everybody. I know Steve is going to, be humble and say, work with somebody. He doesn't care if it's you, if it's him, but he is great to work with. I highly suggest at least reaching out to him. If you have something coming up, just ask, say, this is the event, this is kind of the budget, I don't know, these are the kind of things I'm thinking. He'll search for you. We do that pretty often because, as he said, you have better things to do. So ask the expert who knows the suppliers, knows the timelines, and because he's done it and worked on so many different projects, that he's going to know what to suggest and get back to you pretty quickly so you can make some decisions and get things shipping and to your office in time. But yeah, there are a lot of platforms out there where they'll have fees to sign up for your company, and you have to spend that budget within X amount of months, or else you lose it. And anytime you ask them for help, they're just like, oh, well, did you check the website? And then their website isn't all that great. Like, don't waste your time doing that or your money. I mean, talk to an expert like Steven or somebody, as he said, in your area that that you can trust. I did see we had one question here that popped up that you kind of talked a little bit about, but just to reiterate it, how do you split your list into good, better, and best? Like, is there a way that you prefer to do it?
The reality of it is typically it's a lot of it's price driven, but a lot of it's also personal preference driven. So the good, better, best on the personal preference side, in your head, you'll see all of these items written down. It's just the master list, and you will naturally, as you're going down the list, have a feeling about those items. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That one kind of stinks. Oh, you know what? I really like those. So you can split them by your preferences and how you like them, or you can look at them price range. Now, the call I had this morning, I used for a good example. We were talking about woven button-down shirts. So a woven button-down shirt is pretty similar across the board. So the good, better, best on those was pricing. I had a $30 one. I had I think it was $52 one, and then I had the $100 and something one at the end. So that's pretty easy when you're dealing with apparel. When you're dealing with a list that includes a variety of items, then you really got to throw some personal preference. And in that personal preference, ask yourself, which ones do I think would be more effective? One of the mistakes we all make is we choose items because of what we like instead of what our prospects or our clients would prefer.
We aren't our prospects or consumers.
Don't sell what you want to sell what your buyers want to buy, more or less. So the good, better, best is just a quick rule of thumb. I don't know what you guys have up wherever you are, but our snow cone stands down here. When you hit the drive-through, there's a menu on the wall, and I promise you there's 75 flavors.
You have drive-through snow cone stands?
We have drive-through daiquiri stands. So
dang, this is news to me.
But the idea of choosing between 75 flavors while I'm in the drive-through and people are behind me is insane. I would much rather have 4 or 5 choices, and it keeps it nice and simple. It's the same concept with the good, better, best. Separate them with how you feel they would be as far as effectiveness and budget-wise and all that, and then narrow your list down from there.
I know we did something similar whenever we were ordering pens, and you brought that up about the quality versus quantity too. We asked for a lot of samples of pens, and we knew that there was a good, better, best categorization for those. And it took us a while, but we found one because everybody has a favorite pen. Like if you're going to go to a trade show where you need a lot of an item.
These pens you're talking about, Laura?
Yeah, the ICL gel. There it is.
Yeah,
these pens are great.
Yep, yeah. The big gel pens, they're amazing, and everybody that we've handed them to, they're like, oh yeah, I still use it, because everybody has a favorite pen, and it's usually something they got from a trade show or just some random event because it was free, and they're going to get attached to it. So if you're going to go with something, slightly cheaper, go a little higher price if it's something tested out, and if you love it, like so are the other people.
Do you want the product or not? Like, is it a product that you would use in your household? Yes or no?
Exactly.
One thing you didn't touch on that might be good for a lot of people to consider is when they're putting an order in and they're using like a logo or they're putting like contact information on it, which I mean, I try to avoid putting contact information on it. I'm not sure what you advise for them if you want to touch on that too, but in terms of like font size, like line thickness on fonts, color limits, those kind of things.
It really varies depending on the items we're doing. Example, embroidery. I don't care how many colors are in your logo. You can have a 1-color logo or a 12-color logo, and the embroidery machine does the same thing. So it doesn't matter. Now, ballpoint pens. If you've got a 12-color logo, we've kind of got a little bit of an issue. The vast majority of promotional items are designed for single color imprint or 2-color imprint. Now, there's a whole line of options available for the full color stuff, but we ask up front on the logos, like the Vic Fin logo. The original Victorian Finance logo we were working with was 2 colors. It was that teal and that gold. And then there were a couple of different versions of it, but that logo lends itself extremely well to being reproduced in a single color. There are some logos out there that are so colorful and so complex that they don't reproduce well. So if you have one of those logos, be prepared to either A, compromise and take it down to a single color for the imprints, or B, pay more money for the promotional item you want because you want the full color imprint on it. We can take it either avenue. It doesn't matter to me. But being able to single color what you've got or even 2-color what you've got is pretty important. I've seen lots and lots of logos that as a logo printed on a piece of paper and thumbtacked to a bulletin board, it looks really, really cool. My initial instincts are always, how reproducible is it on other objects, on other types of products? And there's a lot out there that just aren't. They just aren't. I do a lot of government contracting, and a lot of especially the National Guard units around the nation require a 3-color imprint. and that limits some of their choices when we're looking at products. They got to have the black, the white, and the PMS 123 yellow. So keep that in mind with your artwork, and if you've got a single color version of it. Now, the second part of your question, and I'll touch on that. I almost argued with a client a couple months ago because he was doing some Nike polos, and he wanted his logo embroidered left chest, which is normal. That was great, but he wanted his phone number underneath it.
Don't do
Gonna
that.
be reading it. You'd have to get up that person really close.
Yeah, I just could not talk him out of. So there's 6 Nike polos in East Texas that has logo and his phone number on it. And I just hope someday somebody calls him and says, hey, I was looking at your chest and wrote down your number. And I just don't think it's going to happen. But so that's another key thing. Some items need information on them. Ballpoint pen should have at least your website, if not a phone number. If you're doing a really higher end coffee mug or tumbler, no, just do the logo, brand yourself, get that brand out there. And those are all things depending on the product that we discuss on a daily basis with our clients.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you're going to go with a quality item, like a nice like Yeti or Arctic tumbler or something like that, that you want somebody to use for years into the future, they don't want to be walking around with a business card for someone that's not even them. If they have their own business, like they don't be walking around with all that on a mug. You just need a brand.
I don't want your phone number on their mug.
No, now if you're a lawn care service or a landscaping company, and you're outfitting your whole crew in bright orange shirts, absolutely. Real big on the back, you want your phone number. Mm-hmm. You want your logo and your phone number. But there are times and places for all of that information on the promo items.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of requests for like people's faces that isn't like part of their logo?
Thank goodness I don't get a lot. Occasionally, I'll have someone request. And just kind of tongue in cheek, anytime we're working on items that allow 4-color process, I'll throw it out there to them, just kind of chuckling. Hey, we can put your smiling face on this mug if you want. and it's that rare individual who will do something like that. But we've done it.
Okay. Yeah, I do also like that you pointed out that you don't care how many embroidery colors
are
in a design. That's honestly, I've run into it with national companies and with local hometown like embroidery shops. They a lot of times care. They'll charge
some of them
for
do.
red color.
Yeah, what'll happen is they'll have a smaller machine that has fewer spools. Our factory facility, both of our facilities have nothing but 12 head stuff. So we or 12 thread stuff. So we can do up to 12 colors. Now, screen printing is a different ballgame. When you're screen printing t-shirts, the number of colors and the number of locations dictates pricing on those. So you got to be careful with that. But embroidery, could care less. 12 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. I'm just thinking through this. What is the most challenging request you think you've ever gotten?
Was it from Laura?
Wow.
I don't think I've thrown too many curveballs at him.
Can I show him the product ad email you gave me the other day?
No,
okay.
That's okay.
Okay, so that's a tricky one. We get some challenging requests. We've gotten pretty comfortable even designing and having custom items manufactured and imported. So as the years have gone on, the challenges are smaller and smaller for what we do. I think the biggest challenges we face in this business are our clients' ability to provide us with good art. Mm-hmm. You'd be amazed at how many even large companies don't have any vectored version of their logos. They'll send a JPEG, or I even had one scan in a business card and send that to me.
That's rough.
It is rough. And so now with our local East Texas business, and some of these are big companies, but there's, Joe's Plumbing or whatever. I mean, all of those that are part of our book of business and great clients, I kind of understand it with the mom and pop stuff that they don't have the vectored art or the high res images. and we work with it on a daily basis. When it's coming from a large national level corporation, it sometimes gets a little
silly.
Yeah, and I guess challenging. The government asks for a lot of challenging paperwork. So if you're doing any government contracting, it's going to be challenging. But we've gotten I mean, 24 years, this is what I do. If I'm not between this and then my after hours hobbies, that's it. That's life. So
one of the things I know that you and I have worked through in the past couple of years is, especially aggravated by the pandemic that we went through, is the supply chain issues
yes,
and how things got backed up. And I know we've had conversations about you've located the thing, it's in a box on a ship that's at port that like can't pull in, those kind of things. It's been a rough couple of years, and you've still like somehow made things happen in the timelines we've needed. Because sometimes you have to pivot, and we've been able to do it. But like, we've been dealing with those issues for a while. What are you seeing on your end? Like, is it getting any better?
Okay, so here's the whole supply chain story as of February 8th, 2023. The vast majority of the supply chain in the import-export promotional products specifically world is pretty much fixed. There are very, very few inventory shortages anymore. And if there are, they're within weeks of restock, so we're fine there. Here's the problem. Prior to pandemic, the average turn time on promotional products from our vendors was 2 weeks. If you called me on a Monday and you ordered a bunch of coffee mugs, in 2 weeks you would have them. That was 90% across the board. That has changed. We now look at 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, as being what is acceptable as the norm. Now, it drives me nuts. I hate that. But that's what's happened in this industry and I'm not sure the cause. I think it's a loss of employee, a loss of staffing. So they have fewer people filling the orders. Combined with the promotional products world, sales as a whole are way up and have been even through the pandemic. We did really well through the pandemic. So the supply chain is there, and the products are flowing back and forth, but the turn times on items has extended now that we're out of, oh, wait a minute, I don't guess we're out of it yet. We got till May to get out of the pandemic. And that's been the biggest side effect of the whole thing. So
yeah, that's a good update, because I don't think that a lot of people are thinking about that when they say, oh, this is my timeline. So clearly we'll be able to make it work. Like they're not considering the factors of like how the industry has been affected over the past couple of years. On a lighter note, like, you've done so many projects. Are there any memorable, like, off the wall requests that you've gotten, or like, is there a time when the client was working with another company and things fell through and you had to go and rescue them? Like, are there any
okay, so that's happened not frequently, but it's happened several times.
Is that your specialty?
It's kind of we're really good at putting out client fires and pulling rabbits out of hats. We're really good at that. As far as unusual stuff, we did some G-strings for a company one time. that this is years ago, back when it was okay to be politically incorrect with some things. So we've done G-strings. We've imported some pretty odd items that you don't normally see. We're working on a big order of wind socks right now.
Of what?
Wind socks.
What's that?
The big thing, orange things that fly at an airport to show you wind direction and speed.
Oh, okay.
These are a little bit smaller. They're not the big 18-inch ones. They're a little bit smaller in diameter. And I fly paramotors, and they're used at small flying fields for those of us that fly ultralights. So I'm working on a big order of those. Those are a bit unique. You don't see those And then we've done some custom things. We've had bags made from scratch. We've had backpacks made from scratch. I had some barbecue scrapers that we designed, and I had them molded and die cast and all that, whatever all the process is. I don't know. So we've had some pretty unique things, some pretty interesting things over the years. The G-strings always stick in my mind, though.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
That's cool that you can do so many like custom things too. That's not even something that I've requested from you yet, but now that I know you can do it.
Oh my gosh, what have I done?
We'll see what can happen. We can get some custom Agent U things out to people. Are there any questions that you had, Caitlin? I feel like I've been talking a lot. I don't know if you had
I
any.
did come up with a question.
Woo!
So we're talking about this. We're calling it swag. When did you notice the word swag taking over promotional materials? Because I imagine when you started in 98, it was promotional materials, and at some point along the way, it got slang into swag.
Okay, so it's within the last 10 years anyway, maybe even 5. And to be honest with you, I don't normally play the swag word.
Okay.
Not a big part of my vernacular. But I'll fit in a group, so I'll throw the word around if I'm, in a group of people who will use it. And it has become very, very specifically descriptive of the products that are available in promotional products. I may end up adopting it. I'm just old and I don't change quickly. So it's not a bad word. It's not. And it works. And if I walk up to someone and say that word, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So good question. I hadn't thought about it.
That's a good question. So, I mean, I just have like one more question here for you. Are there any like new developments that you're working on, like growth wise for Green Monkey Promotions or GM Gifting, anything like that?
We don't have enough time. Okay, so I am currently interviewing for a new PA that will take a load off of my desk. That's happening. Now this won't apply to my normal corporate clients, but we are now officially listed with the AAFES online database of suppliers, and we will have products listed. Now, AAFES for the non-military people is basically the commissary of the PX.
Okay.
It's where military people shop. It's where the government goes to shop. So we will be listed in all of the AAFES sites and listed as a preferred buyer for all of the military installations around the country. Now, I will keep it domestic, strictly in all 50 states. So we do a lot of Hawaii and Alaska. We do a lot of Hawaii. We do some Alaska. So that's kind of big. The PA is big. I'm a lousy delegator, and it's going to be a really big step to have this extra person full-time on staff taking care of things that I shouldn't be taking care of, things that should be getting
That's
done.
like the agents need to hire your company instead of doing it themselves.
That's all I'm saying.
You have to let your people do things and delegate.
I am really good at preaching delegate, and I'm really poor at doing it myself. I'm a lot like I hate to throw lawn care guys out there, but I'm a lot like the lawn care guy that never mows his own yard.
Your spirit animal.
So that's exactly what he is. He's my spirit. So yes, there are some big things happening, some big things shaking up. We have a number of new company stores launching for other national level corporate clients, and I am still rocking all the small local business too, and loving every minute of that.
That's great. I love hearing that. We do have one comment in here in the chat that says, thank you for your insight. They loved your comparison to working with a one-off random site to being the equivalent for simp by owner sign. So that's a great real estate industry.
You know what that falls back to? When I was prepping for this, that falls back to know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
I like how we're looping all this together today.
Yep. And I wrote a note down here too, because sometimes really aren't sure, like you have an idea of what the audience might want, but if you're not sure, you can also offer a variety of things, like
Sure.
order smaller quantities of a couple things and use it almost as like an A/B test, like send them all
Absolutely.
out and see what's popular, and then you know what to order
Absolutely.
more of.
Absolutely. Vic Fenn has been really effective in all of their selections, and more so than most of my other clients. Most of the promotional items we've done for Victorian Finance have had a very specific either message or purpose attached to them. And so it's a textbook of the right way to do promos when you look at the inventory that Vic Fenn has purchased. Well done.
All right. Well, speaking of promos, we do have our giveaway that's still going on. Our winter giveaway is a Mophie power station. Again, it can charge your car. So if you break down somewhere and you need to save
If you're
yourself,
like
AAA is
me,
being
and
slow.
every couple of months you leave your car a light on and then it dies, you need one of these.
Yeah, so make sure you'll be getting an email after this event, and make sure you're keeping an eye out for that, because there will be a link there to just give us some feedback about how today went. And you'll automatically be entered to win the power station to help you out. It's one of those things that you're not going to buy for yourself, but it's incredibly important to have something like that to back you up. So make sure you're entering our giveaways, and Steve will obviously be helping us supply you with extra goodies in the coming months for more giveaways. And Caitlin, I don't know if
Absolutely.
you have anything else you want to chat about, or Steve, before we sign off.
I'm
No,
good. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
yeah, this was a good chat. I feel like I've gained a lot from this conversation. I feel like a lot of people have. We all know if we want 1,000,000 colors, or 12 colors, we come to you with our
There you go.
what is it called? Embroidery. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Well, tune in next month. We're actually going to be covering a lot of design techniques in Canva. So if you guys are
Excited.
not great at designing, we've got a ton of tips and tricks, things that you wouldn't even think to try. So
And Laura and I, the
definitely tune in.
Canva queen.
You know, put it on your calendar when the announcement comes out. And thank you so much, Steve. We've
Sure.
loved having you on here, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime.
Absolute pleasure.
Get back to your lavender fields.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, that concludes our Agent U for this month, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you look for the swag that is going to be sent out, and we'll see you later. Bye.
See ya.